Hey, my luggage has arrived at my parents' house. But what's this all about?
Your luggage arrived? I was thinking it's time for you to move out, so I sent all your stuff over there.
Why? Why would you suddenly say something like that?
Well, I've got a girlfriend now. I've decided to break up with you and marry her.
What? You were cheating on me?
She's younger than you, not sluggish, and exactly my type, unlike how you look. She's totally a better version of you. There's no competition.
Do you understand? What you're doing is adultery, you know? And our baby could be born any time now, right?
I know. You want me to take responsibility, right? I'll pay the compensation for the affair and child support. Is $10,000 enough for the affair, or maybe $20,000? How about $500 per month for child support?
During my maternity leave, my husband sent my belongings to my parents' house. He doesn't even try to hide that he's having an affair. For my capable, high-income husband, the cost of compensation and child support seems trivial if it means he can marry his girlfriend.
I'll contact you later with more details. I'm taking the house and living there with her, so don't come back.
At my husband's words, I thought God must be planning to punish my husband. Fine, I'm better off without someone like you. Let's get divorced quickly.
Yeah, I get it. I'll contact you soon.
Thank you, that helps.
Yeah, that's right. I'm glad we can get a divorce smoothly.
I think my husband misunderstood my last words. Probably before long, my husband will face serious trouble. The house he said he would take to live with her was actually... I'm Amy. I'm 29 years old and I'm an office worker. I'm introverted and not particularly outstanding at my job. That's why I thought of myself as a background character in society. However, just before turning 30, I achieved a major reversal in my life.
Looks like there aren't many good properties near our workplace, huh?
There are good properties, but they're either too small or too far from the station. It's hard to find something that fits our criteria. I'm currently house hunting with Kevin, who will soon be my husband. We're frustrated as we check out the properties offered by real estate agents and online, saying neither here nor there. It's a problem that we can't find a house, but I secretly enjoy house hunting, leaning on my husband. So I always try hard to keep from grinning with happiness, always looking seriously troubled. I am at the pinnacle of happiness, but this isn't what I meant by a major turning point. It's a reversal just because I, a background character, got married. But my husband-to-be works for a multinational corporation, so it's a big reversal. We come from different worlds, but we met through a mutual acquaintance. And to my surprise, he approached me. Because I can't believe it myself, I often ask my husband, "Hey, what did you like about someone like me?"
You're asking that question again? It's your modesty. Nowadays, many women are tough and strong-willed, right? Not good with women like that.
My husband always looks clearly annoyed when I ask the same thing over and over. However, even though he seems bothered, he always gives the same answer, which I love. When he says I'm modest, he's referring to my introverted side. The reason my husband approached me was simply that he liked my face. When I first heard it, I thought it was a bit rude, but as we spent time together, he became attracted to my modesty. I'll forgive my husband's rude remarks because of the happiness we have now. Conversely, what attracted me to my husband was how assertively he leads.
Gather more property information. Also, did you tell the person in charge about the change in the wedding menu?
I'm planning to call about the menu tomorrow.
What? You haven't told them yet? Make sure you take care of important things quickly.
Yes, I'll be careful. My husband sighs and starts putting away the property documents he spread out. I'm often burdened with various tasks by my husband. Also, perhaps because he's too capable, he sometimes makes remarks that seem to look down on me. We aren't married yet, but maybe this is what they call a dominant husband? Some might think it's unbelievable. However, for an introvert like me, it's better to be told what to do. So I think my compatibility with my husband isn't bad. Eventually, the wedding day is approaching, and we still haven't found a property. Since we didn't live together before marriage, we hoped to start living together marked by our wedding. It seems tough now, so we have to make a decision.
I was thinking we could rent until we have kids, but now, should we just buy that house?
Yes, that seems the most realistic. My husband takes out one of the property documents he had compiled and places it on the table. This property is an almost 40-year-old detached house. It has remained unsold while new homes are built around it, apparently. It's well maintained for being 40 years old, but it's certainly not livable as it is.
Then let's buy this house and renovate it.
Yes, considering the construction period, it won't be ready by the wedding, but the location and size meet all our requirements. But suddenly buying a house, are you sure we have the funds?
It's fine, leave it to me.
My husband looks confident. Many wives would be nervous if their husband suddenly decided to buy a house on impulse. However, since my husband's income is high and I also have a job, it's not unreasonable. Therefore, we decided to buy a house right after getting married. Following our marriage, buying a house added another element of happiness to my life at a breakneck pace, almost crushing me with joy. However, the purchase of this house would lead to an unbelievable situation later on. Once we decided to buy the house, we had to start looking for a renovation contractor. Of course, finding a contractor was my responsibility. Since it's a house we'll be living in for a long time, I proceeded with the contractor search cautiously. However, with the wedding approaching, my husband seemed impatient.
Hey, have you found a contractor yet?
Just give me a little more time. I'm still looking.
You're as slow as ever.
But this is important.
If I leave it to you, it seems like we'll never be able to live in this house. I'll handle arranging the contract too.
I'm sorry. As usual, while discussing marriage and our life afterward in my husband's room, I ended up being scolded by him. Feeling sorry for not fulfilling my duty to find a contractor and inconveniencing my husband, I couldn't say anything. Once my husband started looking for contractors, he had arrangements made within a few days, and the construction began the following week. It wasn't surprising. He's efficient in everything he does. With my husband's speed, it's no wonder he finds me slow. While the house renovation was ongoing, our wedding went smoothly. Since we couldn't live in the house yet, I decided to continue living in my husband's room. It's a bit disappointing not to start married life from our own home. But in exchange, another happiness came our way. Kevin, I might be pregnant.
Really?
My husband jumped for joy like a child upon hearing about my pregnancy.
I didn't expect to have a child so soon. And at this timing?
I shared the same sentiment as my husband. I thought we'd have a child eventually, so it was surprising to find out about the pregnancy right after the wedding. I think it was a good decision to buy the house. 2 months after the wedding, the renovation of the house finally finished, and we were able to live together. It's become so beautiful compared to before.
Yeah, right. With a child on the way, it was a good purchase.
I walked briskly around the still sparsely furnished house, excited about starting our married life in earnest. However, 3 months after starting to live in our own home, my husband and I ended up living separately. Hey, have you looked into the creaking floor in the hallway?
No, not yet. I'll call the contractor tomorrow, but more importantly, you're 8 months pregnant now, right? Take some paid leave and go home to your parents' place early.
Huh? I planned to start maternity leave 6 weeks before the due date, remember?
It'll be hard to move around once another month passes. Go home now while you still can.
Okay, I understand. When my husband told me to go home early, I ended up being late for dinner. Having maternity leave at my parents' place was something we had discussed and decided on earlier. Also, since the handover of work for maternity leave is progressing, it's not a problem to start the break a little early. However, I wanted to spend as much time with my husband at home as possible. Since I thought my husband felt the same, I was a little shocked when he told me to go home early. But since it was what my husband wanted, I decided to obey obediently. The following week, I went back to my parents' place for childbirth. Okay, I'll leave the house to you.
Yeah, it's fine, don't worry.
By the way, about the wall in the kitchen.
Don't worry about it. I've been living alone for a long time. I can handle household chores.
Not just that, but also the windows.
Yeah, I got it. I'll take care of it properly.
Perhaps thinking I was being too persistent, my husband pushed me out of the entrance. As I stepped outside, my husband waved with a smile. Since it was my husband, I trusted he would take care of everything about the house. Mom, Dad, I'm home.
Welcome back. Must have been tough, huh?
Not really, I'm okay. When I arrived home, my mom greeted me at the entrance. Feeling a little awkward about her concern, I averted my gaze. I couldn't bring myself to say that it was a luxury to spend $200 on a taxi ride from home.
Oh, you're back. Must have been tough, huh?
No, not really. When I entered the living room, my dad was there. Again, I glanced away at my dad's words. Needless to say, home is comfortable. At home, my husband tended to be somewhat dominant, and I did most of the housework, but at my parents' house, I only needed to help out a bit. Both of my parents are still in their 60s, so they both work. Since my mom works part-time, she comes home from work in the early afternoon, leaving me alone at home in the morning. I spend this time doing light chores like cleaning and laundry as if it were exercise. Since my mom takes care of the household chores in the afternoon, I don't have to do much. Having nothing to do feels strangely unsettling. So I stick to my mom's side every day, wondering if there's anything I can help with. Since I have a lot of free time, I'd like to contact my husband and catch up leisurely, but since I returned to my parents' house, I've hardly received any messages from my husband, nor did he visit my parents' house.
Still no contact from Kevin?
Yeah, no call from him at all. There are things I need to tell him, so I really want him to get in touch soon.
I wonder what's going on. He hasn't even shown his face here for a month, and I'm worried.
He must be working freely without me there. While peeling an apple with a worried expression, my mom handed it to me. I gratefully bit into the apple. My mom was probably imagining negative scenarios like my husband falling ill or having an affair. However, my husband is a capable man, and we are about to have a child. So I didn't believe he could be ill or having an affair. My naive thoughts were soon painfully corrected. One afternoon, while my mom and I were relaxing and watching TV, the doorbell rang. Who is it?
Looks like a package has arrived.
Receiving packages wasn't unusual. However, my mom looked puzzled and headed to the entrance. I sat in the living room and waited for her. From the entrance, I could faintly hear my mom and a man who seemed to be a delivery person talking, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. After a while, my mom came back with a look of confusion, turning into panic.
Wait a minute. Your stuff from your house has arrived. But what does this mean?
What? What do you mean? I returned her question with a question, not understanding what she meant. To clarify the situation, I slowly stood up and headed towards the supposed delivery. What is this? What's going on? Outside the house, there was a moving truck loaded with lots of cardboard boxes. I opened one box and found my clothes inside. Opening another, it was also filled with my clothes. It seemed that all the contents were my belongings from our house. I didn't understand the situation, but there was nothing I could do about the delivered items. The boxes were pushed into a spare room at my parents' house. The room, completely filled with cardboard boxes, was overwhelming. After seeing off the movers, I called my husband, not expecting him to answer as usual. However, this time he picked up immediately. Hey, my luggage has arrived at my parents' house. But what's this all about?
Your luggage arrived? I was thinking it's time for you to move out, so I sent all your stuff over there.
Why? Why would you suddenly say something like that?
Well, I've got a girlfriend now. I've decided to break up with you and marry her.
What? He referred to her as his girlfriend, but this was clearly adultery. Moreover, he was openly declaring it to me, his wife. I was so shocked by my husband's words that everything around me seemed to spin. You were cheating on me?
Well, yes, I suppose. We started dating before the wedding. Every man get cold feet, you know. She was there for me when I was struggling, and we ended up together. I thought I couldn't cancel the wedding, so I went through with it, but I just couldn't give her up. After living with her in our house, it became clear she was better than you, and I was able to decide on divorce.
Living together? You mean your mistress has been staying at our house for the past month?
Calling her my mistress is rude. She's practically my fiancée now.
I'm still here, so she's your mistress. I was so dizzy from anger that I found myself shouting at my husband. My mom, listening to the call nearby, looked very anxious as I mentioned the word affair. I thought I shouldn't make her more anxious, so I forcibly suppressed my anger. You wanted me to go back to my parents' house early so you could live with her, didn't you?
She's younger than you, not sluggish, and exactly my type, unlike how you look. She's totally a better version of you. There's no competition.
Do you understand? What you're doing is adultery, you know? And our baby could be born any time now, right?
I know. You want me to take responsibility, right? I'll pay the compensation for the affair and child support. Is $10,000 enough for the affair? Or maybe $20,000? How about $500 per month for child support?
I could imagine my husband smirking through the phone. He is a capable office worker with a high income. The cost of compensation and child support, if it means he can marry his girlfriend, probably doesn't seem like a big expense to him. In contrast, I am just a background character. As his wife's inferior replacement, I doubt I could stop him from divorcing me. Therefore, I had no choice but to accept the divorce. While I wanted to reject the compensation and child support as a regular employee at a general company, I needed the money from my husband. This was utterly humiliating. I gripped my smartphone so hard in frustration and shame.
Well, that's how it is. The divorce is decided. I'll contact you later with more details. I'm taking the house and living there with her, so don't come back.
At my husband's words, I thought there must be a God. Surely God is planning to punish my husband. Fine, I'm better off without someone like you. Let's get divorced quickly.
Yeah, I get it. I'll contact you soon.
Thank you, that helps.
Yeah, that's right. I'm glad we get a divorce smoothly.
After the call ended, my mom looked at me worriedly, trying to peek at my face. Therefore, I showed a smile to reassure her. I think my husband misunderstood my last words of thanks. Probably before long, my husband will face a serious situation. 3 months later, having safely given birth to a baby girl named Mia, I was still at my parents' house. The daughter was too adorable and I couldn't bear to leave her even for a moment, so I kept postponing, looking for a new place. The divorce was already finalized and I was set to receive compensation and child support. I had no regrets about my ex-husband and felt refreshed by the divorce. The discussions and procedures were all settled, so I no longer had any dealings with my ex-husband. Or so I thought, until he suddenly called again. It seems like he finally realized the situation.
Hey, what's going on?
What do you mean, what's going on?
About the house. You were talking about the floors and walls, weren't you? Don't tell me you knew.
Yes, I knew. You hired a fraudulent contractor to renovate our house.
Why didn't you tell me?
I tried to tell you, but every time I called, you were too busy having fun with her to call back, weren't you? Besides, I had already told you about the creaky floors before I went back to my parents' house, and I asked you to look into it, didn't I? Well, you were too busy thinking about sending me back to my parents' house to listen seriously. My ex-husband has searched for a contractor because I was slow in finding one. As soon as he started looking, the construction on the house began. I was impressed with how efficiently he managed it, but it turned out he had searched online without checking the contractor's reviews, reputation, or track record, and had just looked at the price before making a snap decision. As a result, he had unwittingly chosen a fraudulent contractor. After living there for only 3 months, I noticed strange things like creaking in the hallway, cracks in the kitchen walls, and screws missing from the window frames. After returning to my parents' house, my suspicion grew, and upon investigating, I discovered that the contractor was indeed fraudulent. I had tried to contact my ex-husband to tell him about this, but he was too busy enjoying his time with her to return my calls, and we ended up divorcing before I could tell him.
Because of you, the response was delayed, and now I'm arguing with the contractor. We've lived there for about 6 months, and they keep insisting that it's our fault for how we lived in it. As we argue, the floor creaking has gotten worse, the cracks in the walls have gotten bigger, and the doors don't close properly anymore. The house is a mess.
That must make it quite uncomfortable to live in, huh?
I've moved out now and rented an apartment because if I continued living there, they'd keep saying the damage was due to how I lived in it. I've consulted a lawyer, but for some reason it seems like we're in a tough position, but I'm planning to sue them anyway.
The house is falling apart, and you're heading to court. Sounds really tough. But what does that have to do with me? Did you call me to tell me all this?
Yes, if you had told me sooner that you noticed the contractor was fraudulent, it might not have come to this.
And what if I had?
Well, the child support can stay at $500 a month, but I need to lower the monthly payments for the $20,000 in compensation.
What? I was surprised that my prideful, capable ex-husband was suddenly asking me about money issues.
We moved, right? So now we need to pay for the land, house, renovation loan, and the rent for the apartment. I'm planning to sue the contractor, but I don't know how that'll turn out. And there are lawyer fees, and I might have to pay for the house repairs myself.
Didn't you say your wife was more competent at work than I am? Doesn't she earn a decent income?
Actually, my wife was a coworker at my workplace. I told everyone at the company that I divorced you and then married her, but it seems our relationship had been rumored inside the company for a while.
So she ended up facing cold looks at work, huh?
She couldn't stand it and ended up changing jobs, and her salary drastically decreased. I can't afford to change jobs and lose income, so I'm staying at the company, but even then, money is really tight.
My ex-husband, who had initiated contact with a fraudulent contractor and caused a huge mess, and whose position at work had deteriorated due to his affair, was in a difficult situation. What an example of self-sabotage. Although he was a high earner, being just over 30 and burdened with such payments, it was understandably tough. But it's all his own fault, and none of my concern now. It'll probably be tough for you from here on, but make sure you keep your promises.
Wait a minute.
I ignored my ex-husband and hung up the phone. The last thing I heard from him was a pathetic sound that made him seem anything but the elite he once was. After hearing my ex-husband's voice for the first time in a while, I felt a bit unpleasant and decided to spend some time watching my daughter sleep. In the end, my ex-husband's claims about the defective house did not hold up, and it seemed he had to accept his losses. Fraudulent contractors continue their deceitful practices because they possess various nefarious skills. Even the elite are no match for a fraudulent contractor on their own. My ex-husband had intended to repair the house, but there were various unseen problems, and significant expenses were necessary. It's only natural to not want to live in a house plagued with such issues. My ex-husband ended up selling the house. Since the house was riddled with defects, it had no value as a building, so he decided to demolish it and sell just the land. The land sold, but the loan remained, leaving my ex-husband with debt. Though the debt remained, with the house issues resolved, my ex-husband changed jobs. Judging that he could manage the payments even with a lower income, he left his uncomfortable workplace. After being hit with major house troubles right after getting married and being exposed for having an affair at work, which led to a necessary job change, my ex-husband's wife started blaming him for their situation. Their relationship deteriorated and his wife eventually left the house. Thus, my ex-husband now lives alone in an apartment. Having switched to a lower-paying job, and with monthly payments for the debt, compensation, and child support, his once affluent lifestyle as an elite is gone, and he appears to be living frugally. My ex-husband rushed into an affair and ended up losing money, his house, and his family. Love is truly blind. I plan to start looking for an apartment to live with my daughter soon. When I discussed my situation with my company, they agreed to accommodate me with reduced hours, so there was no need to change jobs. I am grateful for that. Returning to work will be challenging, so I plan to fully enjoy my time with my adorable daughter while I still can.